The raft is still there when you open your eyes. That is the first thing your brain registers, and for a half second it feels like relief. You are floating. You are alive. The hull did not take you down with it, but relief is one of the most dangerous early states in open water survival. It slows your thinking right at the moment your thinking matters most. The sun is already working on you, and you do not feel it yet. That is the problem with the ocean in daylight. The threat arrives quietly, wrapped in warmth. Your skin is damp from spray. Evaporation is pulling heat away even as the air around you climbs. The raft rocks. Your inner ear is still recalibrating after whatever put you here. You sit up slowly. There is a low-grade nausea sitting behind your eyes. That is not seasickness alone. That is your body processing shock. Cortisol and adrenaline are still cycling through your bloodstream from the event. They are keeping you functional for now, but that window closes. Within the first hour, what you do with your hands matters more than what you feel. You check the raft. Inflation points, fabric integrity, any slow leak along the seams. You check yourself. Cuts you did not notice, clothing that is soaked through, shoes still on or gone. Wet clothing against skin in open ocean is not comfort, it is a slow conductor of heat loss. Even in warm tropical water, prolonged exposure to wet fabric accelerates core temperature drop. The ocean's surface temperature and the air above it are rarely the same, and wind makes the gap wider. You do not shiver yet, that does not mean you are fine. Shivering is a response your body triggers when the core is already under pressure. Its absence in early exposure sometimes means the system has not yet registered the deficit. The raft has a canopy, or it does not. That single fact changes almost everything. Direct sun on open water can drive skin surface temperatures high enough to cause burns within 2 hours. Your lips are already dry. You ran your tongue across them without thinking about it. That reflex matters. It is your body beginning to flag fluid loss before thirst fully arrives. Thirst, in a survival context, is a lagging indicator. By the time you feel intensely thirsty, you have already lost meaningful hydration. The ocean around you holds no usable water. That is one of survival's oldest and harshest ironies. Surrounded by water, your body is drying out. Drinking seawater accelerates the problem. The salt load forces your kidneys to pull fluid from tissue to process it. You urinate more than you took in, and the deficit grows faster than it would have without drinking anything. Most people know this in theory. Under stress, some still do it anyway. Not out of stupidity, out of desperation and a body screaming louder than the remembered rule. There may be a survival kit, on the raft, flares, a reflector, a hand pump, emergency rations. You inventory it methodically, even if your hands are shaking slightly. This is not panic. This is the productive end of the stress response. Directed, purposeful movement. The wind is from the east, or it feels that way. The raft is drifting. You cannot see land. You could not see it before the vessel went down either, most likely. You are somewhere in open water, and the question of where is something you cannot answer precisely. What you can answer: how long the sun has been up, roughly what direction the light is coming from. That is not navigation, but it is orientation. And orientation is where everything starts. The first hours after ending up on a life raft are not about rescue. They are about stabilizing the body's rate of deterioration long enough for rescue to become possible. By midday, the heat is no longer background. It is the primary environment. The raft floor absorbs radiation and radiates it back upward against your legs, and back. You shift your position. There is no comfortable one, but some are worse than others. Keeping your body off the raft floor using any available material reduces conducted heat gain. Your urine, if you have produced any, is darker than it should be. That is useful information. Dark urine in early survival is a clear signal the kidneys are already conserving fluid aggressively. You are not critically dehydrated yet, but the trajectory is set unless something changes. Clouds help. Rain helps more. Even a brief tropical squall can change your situation dramatically. If rain comes, you collect it. Every surface of the raft becomes a collection point. You use anything: a shoe, a cupped tarp edge, your own hands if nothing else is available. Rainwater collected from a rubber or coated fabric surface is not perfectly clean, but it is drinkable. The body does not need perfect water. It needs water. That distinction matters when the alternative is nothing. By the second half of the first day, a different pressure begins building. The psychological one: the horizon looks the same in every direction. That sameness is its own kind of weight. Your brain is wired to track change, to find pattern, to locate threat and move toward safety. Open ocean gives it almost nothing to work with, and that sensory flatness is fatiguing in its own way. You may find yourself listening for engine sounds that are not there. You may scan the horizon more frequently than is useful. That is not weakness. That is a normal response to an environment the human nervous system was not built for. The useful discipline is not to suppress that scanning, but to contain it. Check the horizon on a schedule. Use the time between checks for something else. Maintaining behavioral structure, even small structure, helps slow the mental erosion that isolation accelerates. If there are flares in the kit, you do not use them immediately and randomly. A flare seen by no one is a flare spent. You use signaling resources when there is something to signal toward. An aircraft sound, a distant shape. A mirror or reflective surface works in daylight with no consumption cost. You use that first and often. The reflection from a survival mirror can be seen from aircraft at distances exceeding 10 miles under good conditions. At night, the temperature drops. Over open water, the drop can be significant even in tropical regions. Wet clothing that felt tolerable in daylight now becomes a more serious problem. Your core is already working harder than usual to maintain temperature. Shivering begins in many people within the first night, even in conditions that feel mild. Shivering is metabolically expensive. It burns calories and accelerates fluid loss through respiration. Drawing your knees toward your chest reduces your body's surface area exposed to cooler air. 2 people on a raft share body heat passively just by remaining in contact. 1 person has no such option. By day 2, the body's resource budget is visibly tighter. Lips are cracked. Eyes ache from glare. Concentration takes more effort than it did 24 hours ago. This is not failure. This is normal physiology under resource restriction. The brain begins prioritizing core function over peripheral comfort. Decision-making slows. Simple choices feel heavier than they should. This is the state where people make errors they would not make rested and hydrated. They misread a cloud formation as land. They signal it's something that was not a vessel. They make small, logical-seeming choices that compound into larger problems. Awareness of that cognitive drift is itself a form of protection. If you know your thinking is slower, you can compensate, pause longer, check your reasoning, distrust urgency. Rescue, in most open water survival cases, depends on someone else knowing where to look. A vessel distress signal. A last known position from an EPIRB, a flight plan that did not end where expected. The raft's visibility from the air is limited unless it carries a radar reflector or active beacon. Passive survival, staying alive long enough to be found, is the realistic frame for most of this situation. Real emergencies at sea are complex, jurisdiction-dependent, and highly variable by region and vessel type. Formal maritime survival training, Coast Guard guidance, and vessel-specific safety briefings exist for exactly this reason. What keeps people alive longest in open water survival is rarely dramatic. It is thermal management in the first hours, fluid discipline across the first days, and signal readiness maintained through both. The raft did not save anyone by itself. It bought time. What happens inside that window is a negotiation between the body's reserves and the environment's rate of withdrawal. Most people who survive open water exposure did not do everything right. They did enough things right, early enough while the margin still existed. The ocean does not accelerate for drama. It is simply consistent, and consistency at that scale is enough.